Hi, it's Rich Tarani here. Thanks for watching. We're in the TMC Newsroom, and we've got Raza with Fiber Mountain on our show Wednesday, January 28th at IT Expo in Miami, 2015. He will be speaking with me in a fireside chat, and this is a pre-interview to just give you a sense of what's going on at that event. And I think I should just set it up really briefly. Every company and every individual is affected by the cloud on a daily basis. And we may use OneDrive by Microsoft, we may use Box, we may use iCloud if we're an Apple fan. The reality is the cloud is changing everything for every person. If you're a reseller, if you're a small business, a large business, if you're a carrier, the cloud has tremendous implications for your business. If you're a reseller, you're going to be selling more cloud. If you're a carrier, you're trying to sell more carrier services to your customers, etc. But what is the cloud? The cloud is really nothing more than a number of interconnected computers, virtual computers, physical computers, and storage. Generally, when you have enough of them, you end up with a server closet, then you have something like a data center, and then you have interconnected data centers. So the cloud is really nothing more than what I just discussed. And what we don't talk enough about is the innovation that takes place in the parts of the cloud, the pieces of the cloud. That's where there's some serious cloud innovation. And that's where I was hoping Raza would give us some insight on what's happening there and what to expect.
So, Rich, as you said, at the end of the day, at the heart of the cloud is a number of data centers and a number of servers and storage devices interconnected to deliver the services that we look for. That's very true. The number of servers, whether they're virtual servers or hard servers sitting in racks and racks of, sitting in many racks in a data center. They're all interconnected. They're all interconnected using switches and routers and cables, fiber optic cables or copper cables. And the interesting thing is that our networks get larger and larger. Everything is on the cloud. Everything is connected into these data centers. And as our applications grow, our needs grow, the infrastructure in these data centers is massive. We hear terms such as hyperscale data centers. It is really growing to a level where it's just lots of iron and lots of software to control it.
Now, when you have this tremendous growth, which has been taking place and will continue to take place, what are some of the bottlenecks and challenges within cloud environments, data center environments?
So if we look at that, the connection of lots of servers and storage, how are they really connected? So we can take a number of servers and we connect them to something called a switch, which we all are very familiar with. And there's only so many servers that you can connect to a switch, and then that switch connects to another larger switch where there's another number of servers being brought together. And if you look at it as building blocks, it's just the number of devices continues to expand. And as devices expand, traffic from one server goes through one switch after another to really get to something which we call a core switch, and from there transfer out to other switches and get to your destination storage or server. And this is just, as the network grows, as would be logical, latency grows because you're just going through many, many hops of switches, and you're going through this massive network is generating a lot of heat, taking up a lot of power and processing power. And innovation in these areas are really, certainly we can talk about larger and larger switches. That's what the incumbent switch companies do. They build massive, fast switches. There are technologies today that are looking at eliminating some of these switches. If you have multiple layers of switches, optical connectivity can help you increase speed, reduce latency, and actually reduce some of the switches, some of the large switches from the core.
So what you're telling me is that some of the new technology that we're seeing will reduce some of this latency by reducing some of the hops. And I think of, when you say that, I think of a traveler trying to get from to a destination and having to stop in an airport, and then there's some latency, and then get on another airplane, stop in an airport, et cetera. And so what you're saying is now passengers will directly connect, in other words, instead of having to jump from a hub and another hub and another hub.
That's a great example. That is a great example. If you take a look, I fly out of New York Airport a lot, and sometimes I have to take a hop. People might have to take 1 or 2 hops to get to destination X. If there was enough traffic going to destination X, wouldn't the airline put a large plane over there and create a direct flow or a direct path to it? That is exactly what some of these new technologies are doing. They're taking the elephant flows in the network and creating very direct paths, not having to subject it to many hops of switches. And that just reduces the amount of load on switches in the middle of the network and gives you a very fast, very quick, and controllable paths to destinations around those switches.
Now, there are some other innovations as well, right? And we're going to talk more about this, obviously, at IT Expo. But innovations in terms of virtualization and software-defined networking, how are those things playing in the cloud and the data center?
So if we look at our networks, let's look at incumbency has been big in data centers. There's a few vendors. They've done a very good job of building switches that allow data centers to grow. Now, in the recent years, what's happened is newer vendors have come into the picture. We've all heard about white box switches, and you have many companies involved with it. And some of the companies that are known are companies such as Quanta and Foxconn and Acton. They've got switch hardware that is using the same silicon from Broadcom, and these switches are available in the market at a much lower cost. You've got vendors out there such as Cumulus, who has a Linux distribution which allows layer 2, layer 3 switching, and you can put that on these white box switches, and that's a great solution, less cost, playing against those incumbent solutions. You've got Pika 8 out there also taking some of these white box switches and putting their solutions on it. So you've got a lot of options out in the marketplace. They're growing, and we see some of the large hyperscale data centers using some of the white box switches and also building their own solutions. So there's a number of things happening in the industry which are driving towards solutions that are different than the incumbent solutions that we had for the last 10 or 15 years. In that respect, our company, Fiber Mountain, also sees a different path. What we see is an optical network can allow direct connection of racks without large core switches. And we see that optical network expanding to reach the servers. When we started this, you said at the end of the day, it's a lot of servers and storage connected together to make these data centers and these clouds. We see an optical core reaching the server, and the server able to create paths that are elephant flows right from the server to storage or to another server, and be able to take the mouse flows out to a switch for processing. So less switches in the network, a faster optical core.
And it seems that there's an inevitability to what you're saying, because the number of cores in a data center is growing so rapidly that there's going to be bottlenecks at the switch, more bottlenecks at the switches, and the switches will basically choke on cores that need servicing.
Let me take a couple of examples. You're right. Yesterday, previous years, the number of servers that were located in a row of 10 or 12 racks, we can do that much processing in one rack today. Tomorrow, as more and more processor enhancements happen, we'll be doing that much processing in one server host with multiple cores in it. When you have that much in a server, the amount of bandwidth just to storage, let's imagine, is quite a bit. And when you have hundreds and thousands of servers getting to storage, what type of switch are you going to put in front of your storage to take this sort of traffic? You just have to have a better, more efficient network than to pass immense amounts of traffic from point to point in the network.
And that is basically what we're saying, and that is having the traveler go direct. So basically we're talking taking our travelers and stop moving them from hub to hub to hub to just kind of directly get to their destination.
That's right. Get the important ones or the high flow ones out fast to the destinations.
Fantastic. And this is going to be a tremendously disruptive change, it sounds like.
It is disruptive. It's disruptive. It's certainly one of the things we say, innovation versus incumbency. So I was part of a switch company in part of my life. Certainly today's model is great for switches, but switch vendors have incumbent customers. It's hard to change. Some of this innovation you see coming from different companies than the incumbent switch manufacturers, and you will see more and more of this coming into our networks. And
excellent. And so for those people that want to learn more, basically Wednesday, January 28th at IT Expo, and currently at 9:30 a.m., and we hope to see you all there in sunny Miami, Florida. Thanks, Raza. That was great.
Thank you very much.